Okie dokie. Hello, everyone. Hope you like my top. I found this humorous. Apologies, I've not been around. I've got a bit of an explanation for that. So where have I been? I was on annual leave last week and I had the best time ever. It was my birthday. Had some really nice times away in Nottingham doing various bits. Then went to Download Festival, as you can see here, where there was a lot of people. I was all set to go and come back into the gym Monday, but I started to get quite a bad reaction to the sunburn that I had sustained. I think it was like heat exhaustion because I had headaches, felt sick. I was so hot, but like only where I had sunburn. It wasn't a good time. Started to feel a little bit better by the Tuesday morning, but still not 100%. And I noticed that my throat was very like sore. I figured being at Download Festival, singing along with a lot of the bands and stuff that I love, I just had a sore throat because, yeah, I was singing a fair bit, especially on the last band. But I got the old Rona for those that don't already know. So I've been isolating since. Currently, it just feels like the whole time that I've had COVID, it's felt like I've got like a golf ball right at the back of my throat. So I can't, or I struggle to swallow. So you'll have to bear with me. I could talk. I'd get quite tired quite easily, but I thought I'd give this webinar a go. Speaking of which, shoes. Excuse me. I have conversations with people quite a lot about footwear, what's appropriate in the gym and for what reason. So today we're just going to be doing a one video, one size fits all for a lot of people, just so you can get a bit of a better idea of what to wear when you're at the gym, which does sound silly, but at the same time, it is quite relevant. So why does it matter? Your shoes are obviously the main contact that you have with the ground. Now, obviously, you've got various options here. I've tried to be as funny as possible, especially with the Crocs. But believe it or not, some people do actually work out in Crocs. It's quite rare that you see that, but some people do. But yeah, it's your main contact with the ground. So, dependent on what activity that you're doing, it may reduce the efficiency in what you are doing. So, if I was to be wearing hiking boots for running, obviously, we all know that's probably not ideal. Same goes for if I'm wearing running shoes for lifting weights. That one's not as obvious, but a lot of people do. And yeah, this may impact your physical stresses. So in the bottom right corner, we've got these shoes that are called toe shoes or Vibram 5 Fingers, if you want to be specific to the brand. Now they've got like no padding. It's basically like a barefoot shoe. We are going to get into those in a bit, but effectively, if you're used to running in the top left shoe where there's a lot of cushion, then you suddenly swap to a barefoot shoe, that's going to severely up the amount of stress that your body has to cope with, and it might not be able to, which is where injuries can happen. So initial considerations. You've got what's called the gait cycle. So the gait cycle, we're going to be looking at this bottom picture here, the light blue. So this is effectively the cycle of which your stride from heel strike to toe off, effectively, that's your gait cycle. Now, dependent on the type of shoe that you're wearing and the activity that you're doing, this can affect what's called your center of mass or COM. Now, if I was to be wearing, let's say, a running shoe, I've got loads of examples with me as well. This is going to be fun. If I've got a running shoe and I'm doing something like lifting weights, where a lot of the padding's at the back of the shoe and not much is at the front, that's going to push me forward, which for running is ideal because what direction do you want to go? You want to go forward when you run. But when you're lifting weights, if you're trying to stay upright and keep your torso fairly upright, and that's pushing you forward, it's going to force you forward. So this is where like footwear can get a little bit more specific. You've then got stability. So I've already mentioned lifting in running shoes. There's a lot of cushion. So if you're trying to be as stable and rigid as you can, it's going to be quite hard in something like a running shoe. And then, yeah, it's not just about the shoes or your feet. There are other factors to take into consideration. There was someone a few weeks back that I saw with a barbell on their back, at Balance in the under mezzanine area where there's like mats and mirrors. They had a barbell on their back. They had running shoes on, but they were also on one of the thickest mats that you can get, and they were trying to squat. Now, you've not only got the cushion of the shoe, but you've also got the mat. That's going to add more of a challenge into the equation, and not necessarily a beneficial challenge. And then we've also got what is best for person A may not be the best for person B. So myself, I feel like I'm a good example. I quite like barefoot shoes or shoes with minimal cushion. I didn't at first, but right now I would say they're my most comfortable shoe. Whereas there's plenty of you that I know might watch this that'll be like, oh, no, I quite like a little bit of cushion. So that's perfectly okay. I'm going to try and address as many scenarios as I can, but let's get into the nitty gritty. We've got running shoes. These are the standard. This is the example that I've put on the screen. When was the last time you guys saw me wearing a shoe like this, by the way? A long time ago. But yeah, so pros, they are heavily cushioned, and this is designed for high impact. So when you run, I forgot to get the videos up. So when you run, you're going to have quite a lot of impact in your running. Let me just get the videos up. Get that one, and then get to this one. Add another ad. Let's get on. All right, I'm going to set on there. There we go. Right, so yeah, when you have quite a lot of impact, your feet need to be able to absorb said impact, which is why the cushion tends to be the majority of the rear part of the shoe. Now, obviously, you've got different running styles, so you can be like what's called a toe runner, where you don't really put any pressure through your heel, you put it all into your toes. And obviously here it's showing like I think this is actually it. Yeah, it's more of a toe style running. But yeah, so you've got like different cushion, different areas of the shoe. That's going to make me redo the whole thing again, isn't it? Ah, damn. You can tell it's been a while. There we go. But effectively, yeah, so you've got quite a lot of cushion to be designed for the high impact. Now, for something like running, very ideal. You've got different running styles, so the amount of cushion that you might need may be impacted. You've also got things to consider, such as if you are sprinting on a running track, something like a heavily cushioned shoe might not be ideal. This is why you might get something like spiked shoes. If you've, I don't have an example here, but if you've ever seen those, they're basically like barefoot shoes, but with like spikes sticking out, and so that it can really sink into the running track. Some have support, so high arch, low arch, things like that. Comfortable AF, which stands for comfortable as, I won't finish that. I would agree. When I wear these, it's been years since I've worn running shoes, but when I wear running shoes, I always feel like I'm floating on a cloud. It's a very nice feeling. But I prefer barefoot shoes these days because I feel like my foot can move a bit better. But yeah, so running shoes have the most options of shoe because they're such a common type of shoe. And you've also got cheaper options because the supply and the demand is a lot higher. So you've got loads of different variations. Now, obviously, we've got the cons. So cushion isn't ideal for weight training, which needs that stability. So I've already kind of touched on that initially. So you've got the high amount of cushion in the rear part of the shoe and the not so much in the front, which is going to push forward. You've got the actual cushion itself. It needs to absorb. So you will absorb your own body weight into the shoe just standing there. If you add a weight onto your back, that's going to sink you lower into the cushion, and that may move you around, which won't be fun. Yeah, supports should be specific to the individual and not general. So if you go into I don't know, shoe shop, who calls them a shoe shop? If you go into Sports Direct and you go, oh, I like the look of that shoe, I'm going to go with that one. And it's a high arch when you might need a low arch or vice versa. It might force your movement pattern and might make running uncomfortable. If not, it could lead to things such as knee pain, hip pain, ankle pain, things like that. Now, wear, dependent on the age of the shoe / use, can also force movement patterns. So it's very common. I've held the shoe up this way quite a lot. It's very common that people might get pushed inwards or be pushed outwards. So you've got what's called pronation, where you're pushed inwards, and you've got supination, where you're pushed outwards, right? Now, sometimes this is just a natural movement of the foot. It is natural to have a good amount of both pronation and supination, but sometimes the shoe can force it. So if it's pushing you inwards and you're running, that's going to have a lot of impact on your knees. If it's pushing you outward, that's probably going to have a lot of impact on your ankles. And it's also ideal to replace them after every 500 miles plus, dependent on the amount of wear. Now, I've got a very good example here. So you might be able to see that there is a crease like in this panning bit. I don't really want to touch it because, as you can see, it is quite dirty. There should be quite prominent crease. Now, this is a sign that the cushion has been worn into death, meaning it's not going to have much cushion or not be able to soften the impact if I was to run in these. You've also got at the bottom of the shoe. Now, if you have a look closely at my shoe, the wear on the shoe is actually very good, apart from this little bit here. It's very good, which is why I've put this image up here, supplied by one of my clients, Fergus. So I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but on the outside of his shoes, this is where he tends to heel strike. It's more on the outside of the shoe. So he'll probably come in like this and then go like that. Whereas I don't have that wear because I'm not really a runner. So when I got these were just for gym floor work. So I wouldn't necessarily lift too much weights in them, but I'd be stood on them all day, every day. But it meant that there wasn't much wear on the bottom because I wasn't having that friction of running. It was always just, I was standing in them. So anyway, that's running shoes. We've then got cross-training shoes. So this is a Nike Metcon. Should probably have tidied up the laces before. So this is more of a hybrid shoe. So it means it is a fairly, you'll be able to see that, it's a fairly flat shoe, but it does also have some cushion, which means the cushion's there for some impact, but you've also got the flat part of the shoe, which is ideal for things like lifting. So cross-training effectively is if you're going to do some sort of running, jumping, skipping, things that are involved cardio in a sense, but you're also planning on doing some sort of lifting in the shoes. So these are quite big in a sport called CrossFit. Now, they do also have some sort of heel inserts, which can also raise the heel. We're going to get into that shoe, I think, next. But yeah, these are quite a good overall, like they do the job. Now, the cons are they're very good for various bits and bobs, but they're not great for one thing in particular. So these shoes versus a running shoe for running, I'll pick the running shoe because these aren't designed for just running. So these won't be as good as a running shoe. Now, for something like weightlifting, these have some cushion in them. So a weightlifting shoe with less cushion would be more ideal. So they're a great hybrid shoe, but they're not great at one specific thing, but they're great if you're doing various things. Hence CrossFit, you do various sort of disciplines. And they are also quite expensive, which also doesn't necessarily make them ideal. Now, I was going to move on to the next shoe, but I thought it might be worth touching on these. Now, I'm not going to recommend everyone buy a pair of Jordans. I'm just a big fan of Jordans, but this is more of an example of what might not seem like a cross-training shoe, can be. So this is a cushioned shoe that is also fairly flat. Now, I wouldn't really recommend working out in Jordans, number one, because they're expensive, but also because, in fact, I mean, you could work out in Jordans. I personally wouldn't because I've got so many other better options, but this is if I can talk, this is just an example. So something like this shoe, forget the brand, it's flat, it's got a bit of cushion. This could be seen as a cross-training shoe, okay? So let's move on. The lifting heel shoe. Now, the bottom right with the luminous yellow, lime green, we'll probably see me wear these in the gym at some point. I don't actually have them with me at the moment because they're in the gym and I've got the Rona, so I can't just pop in and get them. But these are basically shoes where, again, if you can see my mouse, there's a bit of a heel at the back of the shoe. Now, the above image, it kind of shows you that it lifts the heel up, which means that there is greater than a 90-degree angle in your ankle, which also means there's less demand on your ankle mobility. So what that means is as you squat down, your knees will need to travel forward to an extent. If you've got a greater than a 90-degree angle, they'll be able to go further forward than if you were in something like a flat shoe, unless you've got great ankle mobility. So because you've got that and you've got the less demand on your ankle mobility, usually that means that you can keep a more upright torso. So this makes it more ideal for things like squatting, weightlifting, so that's snatch and clean and jerk, things like that. You've also got the fact that this is the most solid bottom of any shoe that will exist, because from the back of the shoe right up to, I'll probably say this front strap here, it doesn't move. It does not bend. That is just solid shoe, which makes it very awkward to walk in. But you wouldn't like wear this shoe to do something like running. You'd quite literally just wear it, you'd lift your weights, and then you change back into whatever you're wearing before. But it does mean that you feel super solid. So I've done like lunges in these, and I'll always feel more solid in lunging in these than what I would a running shoe, because a running shoe is a lot of cushion and stability required. Next, you've got they'll last a very long time. I've had mine for, I want to say 5, 6, maybe even 7 years. I've had mine for quite some time. But yeah, like then again, because I'm only wearing them for weightlifting, I'm not wearing them all day, every day. I'm not wearing them to go out to the shops because, as I say, they're awkward to walk in. They're going to last a lot longer as well in that respect. And they're also very comfortable, in my opinion. Now, the cons are there's limited to no cushion. As I say, they barely bend at all. There's also very limited cushion because they're meant to be a very stable shoe. Severely limited uses. And yeah, I've already said squatting, lunging, snatch and clean and jerk, that's about it. Like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for anything else. You can also wear it for bench press. That could be quite beneficial if you're going to utilize leg drive, but that's about it. And as well, they are quite expensive. So unless you've got the money and you don't mind spending a lot of money for a very limited use shoe, you're probably better off going with something else. Next, we've got barefoot shoes. So an example, we've all seen these new ones that I've been wearing. So comfortable. So I prefer a barefoot shoe because it's got what's called a wide toe box. So the toe box is this part of the shoe at the top here, or this exposed bit on this child's foot. And the toe box is effectively the width of the shoe as well as the height of the shoe where your toes sit. And having a wider toe box means your toes don't necessarily get squished in. They can kind of just do their own thing. Again, some people don't like having a wide toe box. Some people do. I'm a person that does prefer a wide toe box. Now, because there is barely anything between your foot and the ground when you wear these things, there's going to be a lot more challenge on your foot musculature. So effectively, when it comes to your feet, you've got 80% of your feet is based on stability and structure of your foot. So your bones, how they're stacked and all that kind of stuff. And then about 20% is your feet and your feet musculature. When we're always putting our feet in a cushioned shoe, our muscles in our feet do get weaker. So having something like going barefoot or chucking them in a barefoot shoe, it kind of challenges your feet musculature a little bit more. It also challenges the sensitivity of your feet. So if I was to walk along a pebble driveway, I know I would be fairly okay. Whereas if someone's used to living in running shoes, they're likely to feel like they're stepping on Lego the whole way through going, because their feet are going to be quite sensitive. Now, because there's barely any cushion and anything to the shoe, it's going to force you to create your own stability and move your own body center of mass a lot more, which can give you a little bit more body awareness. And as I've already said, it's kind of like the closest thing that you can wear to being barefoot, as this kind of child's foot shows. Now, obviously, the cons, there's minimal to no cushion, so that's not ideal. So some people can run in these. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily unless you're going to very slowly and gradually ease yourself into it. They can be very uncomfortable at first. The very first pair that I've got, so this isn't the first pair of barefoot shoes I got. The very first pair that I got, it's an even thinner layer. And all I was doing was wearing them around the gym. And it was so uncomfortable because I was so used to a running shoe. Even just walking, I felt like I was smashing the ground with my feet every step because I was used to the cushion so much. So it can be uncomfortable at first. There's not currently very many appealing designs. This is the best design, believe it or not, that I've ever seen. The rest are all quite meh. Oh, excuse me. Oh, this is that Rona coming out again. I do apologize. So as I say, there's not very many. Oh, actually, that feels a bit better. There's not very many appealing designs, and they are quite expensive. Considering there's not much to the shoe, they are quite expensive. Next, you've got flat shoes. So this is one, like I've quite literally put every shoe that I own on here. So these are similar to barefoot shoes, just with less of the challenges / benefits. They're a lot more versatile. So this, believe it or not, was my very first powerlifting shoe. They used to wear Converse All-Stars, also known as Chuck Taylors by you Americans. They used to wear these in basketball and high school PE or a gym class. I'm just trying to use American connotations now. They used to wear Chuck Taylors all the time, or Converse, for all kinds of sport like that. They're a lot more versatile. They're a lot cheaper. Although Converse, I think I remember when I was younger, it was either £20 or £30 for a pair. And now they're like 50, 55. They have gone up in price, annoying, but they are a lot cheaper than some of the previous options I've mentioned. They can also be a lot more comfortable for a lot more people. So something like a pair of Converse, that'll be a lot more comfortable than a pair of barefoot shoes that some of you might not have tried. Now, most do tend to have narrower toe boxes. So if I compare the two, I don't even, what would be the best way to show you? Bear with me. Yeah, if I compare the two, you can kind of see that in terms of the toe box, it's much wider. No, I don't think I can even show you. It's a lot wider on the barefoot shoe than what it is the pair of Converse. And the same goes for the Asics and the black and white deadlift shoes I've got down here. But these, I'd say, are the best all round. Again, if you would like some cushion in your shoe, if you're planning on doing more running, things like that, you're probably better off with a cross-training shoe that has some cushion. If you're quite literally just going to be lifting some weights, this is probably your best bet, unless you wanted to get more of a barefoot shoe. No shoes. Now, this is an option, and I wouldn't say it's the worst option. So if you want the feeling of barefoot shoe without spending the money and without having to get used to wearing a barefoot shoe, just go barefoot, right? Again, not the worst option. Some gyms have rules, Balance does, and I'm pretty sure the Cave's not 100% on board with you just taking your shoes off in the gym. But yeah, some gyms have rules in terms of you have to have some footwear on. I know sliders aren't allowed at either gym that I train people at, or flip-flops, which you laugh at. They're kind of like a barefoot shoe, and some people do wear them, but you're not meant to wear them. But yeah, so for lifting, it's not the worst option. Just take your shoes off, do your sets, put your shoes back on if the gym allows. Running, again, I wouldn't advise. There's a lot more demand on your tissue tolerance, so the risk of injury is a lot higher, so hence higher requirements. I wouldn't recommend taking your shoes off for that. Yoga, Pilates, and body balance, go nuts, take your shoes off. If anything, it's better. So there's that. So what is the summary of today's video? Running shoes for running, flat shoes for weight training / multiple disciplines, maybe. Cross-training shoes, definitely for multiple disciplines. However, if you want to be a lot more specific, go for the specific like running shoe, weightlifting shoe, things like that. Only invest in lifting shoes with the heel if you're really invested in weightlifting, specifically squats, snatch, clean and jerk, bench press, what was the other one? Lunges, things like that. But again, very limited use. And get supports from a podiatrist if needed. So if you are wearing a pair of shoes and you don't quite feel like you're getting the support that you need from it, you can get like little inserts that you can chuck in the shoe from a podiatrist. Again, don't just get them from the shelf. because they're not likely to be right because it's more general and opposed to more specific. There is a place in Kettering, the Kettering Podiatrist Clinic, I would like to say it's called. It is on my website, I'm pretty sure. So check them out if you do feel like you need more support from a shoe. They do also do a technology-based gait analysis. So I would look at someone's stride and go, here's what your stride looks like. I might also video you in slow motion on my phone and give a bit of an estimate, whereas they've got this platform that you walk on. I want to say it's about £110 for the appointment, but you then know what kind of shoe that you need / what sort of inserts that you need, and they give very good recommendations there. So that's the webinar. Considering I've got the Rona, I don't feel like I did too badly. I apologize for my coughing fit midway through. But yeah, if you've got any questions, fire them in the comments. I still have slots open only at the Cave. I do have a waiting list going on for Balance. I'm fully booked there at the moment. So let me know if you want to book in. And I hope I'll be back at Balance soon. I'm not going to rush though. I slept in until about 9:30 today. So I'm definitely sleeping as much as I can. And I'm trying to get as much fluids as I can in. But yeah, and that is the appointment. So how do you stop screen sharing? There we go. Cool. So that's the webinar. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope that gets you on the right track of getting a pair of shoes. And I'll hopefully see you guys very soon.